Well, it's very lonely. Being a woman in this industry, in my opinion, is extremely lonely. It's rare that you have men hanging around backstage and at parties and at places where you might be the same way you have women around the men. I haven't been able to figure that out yet. I'm going to do a survey and ask the girls, why can they come out and be so aggressive with men, with the male performers, and yet the males don't act that way? There is no such thing as a male groupie. I mean, at least not one I would date. So that makes it pretty tough.
Phyllis went on to say,
"You have many, many things, but I don't have a romantic personal life."
So when you get ready to record, how do you go about looking for songs that you're going to do?
Well, most songwriters know the kind of music that I do, and we get a nice collection of things, and I just choose things by the way I feel. I like songs that have stories to them, that have a beginning, a middle, and an end. I'm hard pressed to sing about "Baby, I Love You." Mm-hmm. Don't you love me too? Mm-hmm. You know I love you, baby. Come on, baby. I can't really sing that. Nor do I have an easy time singing about love. I'm in love. I'll always love you. Oh, we're going to be happy forever. I have a difficult time with that kind of lyric because that's not true. It's a lie. It's not true for me. So I don't really like to sing about that very much, although there are a couple songs on the album. There's one tune called "I Found Love." When I looked into your eyes, there it was. That is such a lie. That is such a lie.
For so many years, and you are an artist. I mean, you sing.
Can you say this on the air? It pisses me off.
I think you can.
It makes me big time angry.
You just said it.
It makes me big time angry because of the fact that I have spent so many years developing this talent and working very hard at it. And then I realize sometimes, some parts of the industry, they're only interested in quick results, instant results. They get these artists, and these artists are thrown away afterwards. They think they're on the road to their big break. You hear from them this year, you don't hear from them anymore.
That's very true.
Because they're being used and they're being discarded. Now, I've been in this industry since '76 making records. And I have gotten real strong because I have been depressed for many years because I only bring out a record every 5 years, due, unfortunately, to politics in this business. Being with Kenny Gamble's been a joy because he has been very supportive of me. And I'm grateful, even though it doesn't pay the bills, you know. I'm able to work on the road and do things with Lonnie and Grover because people believe in me, but it's taken its toll on me because I've been real depressed. I won't deny that.
Phyllis Hyman tried to put us on game about Clive Davis way before her sudden and suspicious passing. But here's the thing. Phyllis wasn't just looking out for herself. Sis was on a mission to warn others in the industry, including Whitney Houston. Yet when Phyllis's life came to a tragic end, the details weren't adding up. And somehow, all roads lead right back to Clive Davis, the same man she worked with for nearly a decade. So what really went down with Phyllis Hyman? And why does Clive Davis's name keep popping up in the middle of these whispers? Grab a snack, because we gotta talk about this.
So when you get ready to record, how do you go about looking for songs that you're going to do?
Well, most songwriters know the kind of music that I do, and we get a nice collection of things, and I just choose things by the way I feel. I like songs that have stories to them, that have a beginning, a middle, and an end. I'm hard pressed to sing about "Baby, I Love You." Don't you love me too? You know I love you, baby. Come on, baby. I can't really sing that. Nor do I have an easy time singing about love. I'm in love. I'll always love you. Oh, we're going to be happy forever. I have a difficult time with that kind of lyric because that's not true. It's a lie. It's not true for me. So I don't really like to sing about that very much, although there are a couple songs on the album. There's one tune called "I Found Love." When I looked into your eyes, there it was. That is such a lie. That is such a lie.
For so many years, and you are an artist. I mean, you sing.
Can you say this on the air? It pisses me off.
I think you can.
It makes me big time angry.
You just said it.
It makes me big time angry because of the fact that I have spent so many years developing this talent and working very hard at it. And then I realize sometimes, some parts of the industry, they're only interested in quick results, instant results. They get these artists, and these artists are thrown away
afterwards. They think they're on the road to their big break. You hear from them this year, you don't hear from them anymore.
That's very
because
true.
They're being used and they're being discarded. Now, I've been in this industry since '76 making records. And I have gotten real strong because I have been depressed for many years because I only bring out a record every 5 years, due, unfortunately, to politics in this business. Being with Kenny Gamble's been a joy because he has been very supportive of me. And I'm grateful, even though it doesn't pay the bills. You know, I'm able to work on the road and do things with Lonnie and Grover because people believe in me, but it's taken its toll on me because I've been real depressed. I won't deny that.
Right before Phyllis Hyman's untimely passing, word on the street was that things between her and Clive Davis had gotten real tense. See, Clive thought Phyllis was too much to handle, too outspoken, too strong-willed, and Phyllis? She felt like Clive was trying to put her in a box, controlling her every move when it came to her music. Their back and forth wasn't just industry drama, it turned into full-blown emotional abuse, with Clive straight up ignoring her work like she didn't exist. But let's be real, Phyllis wasn't the type to sit back and suffer in silence. Sis walked right up in a board meeting and aired it all out. But when Clive tried to brush her off, whew, she let him have it. She went off, calling him a faggot and a plantation owner. And if you know anything about Clive, then you know that cut him deep, especially since he was out here doing the most to keep his business on the low at the time. Now, Phyllis wasn't just any artist. She was one of the most promising voices of her generation. But unlike a lot of black artists who came up in the church, Phyllis took a different path. She was unique, she was bold, and she refused to be controlled. Phyllis always said music found her through school, starting in high school and continuing into college. Before she even realized it, she was in deep, making waves in the industry, and eventually, Clive Davis signed her. But little did she know, that's when the nightmare really began. To the world, Phyllis Hyman was that girl, one of the biggest stars in America, a powerhouse singer, a songwriter, and even an actress. She lived big, exuded confidence, and seemed untouchable. So when news broke that she had passed away so suddenly, nobody saw it coming. She was found unresponsive in her bed, allegedly from an overdose on sleeping pills. But fans weren't buying that story. The whole situation felt off. And when folks started connecting the dots, especially how eerily similar it was to how Whitney Houston died, questions had to be asked. And get this, Phyllis passed on the very night she was supposed to take the stage at the Apollo Theater, just 6 days shy of her birthday. Now tell me that doesn't sound strange. With all that in mind, let's take it back and dig deeper into Phyllis Hyman's life and her warnings to Whitney Houston about Clive Davis. Phyllis was born on July 6, 1949, in Philadelphia as the eldest of 7 children. Her father was a World War II veteran, and her mother worked as a waitress at a nightclub, so let's just say they weren't living in luxury. She and her siblings were raised in St. Clair Village on Pittsburgh's South Side. But when it came to her talent, her parents didn't really nurture it. They weren't paying attention to the star she was destined to be, leaving Phyllis to find her own way into music. After leaving Pittsburgh, Phyllis finally got some real music training at a proper music school. And lucky for her, right after graduating, she caught a big break. At just 22 years old, she landed a spot on a national tour with a group called New Direction in 1971. But trust, that was just the beginning. When New Direction split up, Phyllis had to pivot, so she linked up with another group called Hondo Beat. But music wasn't her only passion. She had her sights set on acting and modeling too. And baby, that little creative streak of hers, yeah, that would later have her butting heads with Clive Davis. But did Phyllis care? Not one bit. Sis was about her business. And in 1974, she stepped onto the big screen in the film Lenny. And let's be real, she ate that roll up and left 0 crumbs. Then, the very next year, she got scooped up by Sid Maurer and Fred Frank, signing with Roadshow Records and the Desert Moon imprint. But don't get it twisted, before that she was out here grinding, fronting her own band, Phyllis Hyman and the PH Factor, searching for something bigger than life. That hunger for more pushed her to New York City, where she got her start as a background vocalist on John Lucian's Premonition and worked the club scene. But Phyllis still wasn't satisfied. In 1975, fate came knocking when Norman Connors, who was originally trying to book Jean Carn for his album You Are My Starship, stumbled across Phyllis at a little nightclub on the Upper West Side. After seeing her tear down the stage at Carnegie Hall for John Lucian, Norman knew she was it. So he slid her an offer to be the female vocalist on his 4th album for Buddha Records. And just like that, Phyllis was on her way. But what looked like a dream come true? Whew, it turned into a roller coaster ride real quick. But here's the gag. The song was a hit. It catapulted Phyllis Hyman, Norman Connors, and Michael Henderson straight to the top, taking their careers to heights they never imagined. As Phyllis's star kept rising, she found herself singing alongside legends like Pharoah Sanders and the Fatback Band, all while crafting her own solo project. That album, Phyllis Hyman, dropped in 1977 under Buddha Records, and she absolutely loved being there. Why? Because Buddha felt like family. It was a small, tight-knit label where she had control over her sound. She could create music that spoke to her soul, but then everything flipped upside down when Arista Records bought out Buddha. That meant Phyllis was no longer calling the shots. She was now under Clive Davis's control, and according to her, it was never the same after that. Her first album under Arista, Somewhere in My Lifetime, came out in 1978, and while it made waves, the vibes were off. Then came You Know How to Love Me, which climbed the R&B top 20 and even shook up the club dance charts. Around that time, Phyllis also lent her heavenly vocals to Dancing on the Ceiling by the Beck family. But one thing about Phyllis, sis wasn't out here making bubblegum love songs. No, her music was deep. It was raw, emotional, and heavy. She poured her pain into every lyric, and if you listened close, you felt it. When an interviewer asked her why she didn't sing romantic songs like Marvin Gaye or Barry White, Phyllis kept it all the way real. She said she had never felt that kind of love before. That led to a deeper convo about her love life, where she admitted that men didn't approach her the way they did other women, and she didn't understand why. Now, let's be clear. Phyllis was stunning, easily one of the most gorgeous and talented women of her time, but she was also tall and carried herself with a certain presence that could be intimidating. And maybe, just maybe, that's why some men didn't know how to step to her. But you know how the media do. They took that interview and ran with it, flipping Phyllis's words to make it seem like she was out here desperate for love. Now, back in the late 70s, Phyllis did get married to her manager, Larry Alexander, but that union didn't last long. Turns out they wanted completely different things. Larry was ready to settle down and start a family, but Phyllis, she wasn't about that life. Between her skyrocketing career and her childhood experience as the eldest of 7, she had already played the mother role way more than she wanted to. That alone drained any curiosity she had about motherhood. Truth be told, Phyllis even started resenting her own mother for bringing more kids into the world than she could properly take care of. And while she was navigating those deep, personal struggles, her professional life was crumbling too. Not only was her marriage on the rocks, but she was also clashing with the one and only Clive Davis. Now at first, Clive was hyped to have Phyllis under his label. He knew she was ridiculously talented and had the potential to be a massive star. But the way he went about it, yeah, that didn't sit right with her. Clive wanted Phyllis to switch up her image and sing his kind of music. The stuff he thought would make her a mainstream success. But Phyllis? Oh, she was not about to let some white man tell her how to look, sound, or be. She was a bold, opinionated black woman, and she refused to be controlled. And you already know how this goes. When a black woman stands her ground, the industry labels her difficult. So in true white man fashion, Clive stamped her with the angry black woman label, making it even harder for her to navigate an industry that was already stacked against her. But that wasn't the only thing that had Clive heated when it came to Phyllis. See, they had already clashed in a board meeting, but the real drama? Word on the street was Clive wanted Phyllis to stick to just music, no distractions. But Phyllis? She had a deep love for acting too. So, against Clive's wishes, she went ahead and did Sophisticated Ladies, which not only put her on the theater map, but also earned her a Theater World Award and a Tony nomination. And then, there was the whole image thing. Clive wanted Phyllis to switch up her look, lose the signature hat, go blonde, and dress in a way that catered to mainstream audiences. But Phyllis wasn't about to be anybody's puppet. She stood her ground, but that push and pull at work started weighing on her heavily. The pressure, the feeling like she wasn't enough, it threw her into another bout of depression. And before long, folks say she started turning to drugs for comfort. But let's be real, this wasn't the first time Phyllis used substances to numb the pain. Back when she was with Larry, they had already been down that road, using drugs to smooth over their marital issues, only to wake up the next day facing the same mess. On top of that, Phyllis had seen it all before. Her own father, a World War II vet, had drowned his troubles in alcohol and drugs. So after she and Larry called it quits, she locked her heart up tight, swearing off romance altogether. But even with all that, she later admitted in an interview just how lonely life had become. And in her own words,
well, it's very lonely. Being a woman in this industry, in my opinion, is extremely lonely. It's rare that you have men hanging around backstage and at parties and at places where you might be the same way you have women around the men. I haven't been able to figure that out yet. I'm going to do a survey and ask the girls, why can they come out and be so aggressive with men, with the male performers, and yet the males don't act that way? There is no such thing as a male groupie. I mean, at least not one I would date. So that makes it pretty tough.
Phyllis went on to say,
You have many, many things, but I don't have a romantic personal life.
and throughout her career, Phyllis never held back about how much damage her past relationship had done to her. But let's circle back to Clive Davis, because that man was mad when Phyllis refused to play by his rules. So what did he do? He straight up sabotaged her career by refusing to promote her albums. And just like that, in walks Angela Bofill, freshly signed under Clive, ready to take the spotlight. But Clive wasn't stopping there. Oh no, he made sure to stack the deck against Phyllis by signing other powerhouse women like Dionne Warwick, Aretha Franklin, and Melissa Manchester, each one positioned to compete with her. But out of all of them, Phyllis had a real issue with Angela Bofill. Why? Because while her own career was stuck in limbo, Clive was putting all his energy into Angela, who, unlike Phyllis, was more than happy to play along with whatever Clive wanted. This tension turned into a full-on rivalry between the two women. But by 1984, Phyllis had had it. She demanded to be released from her contract, and though Clive wasn't happy about it, he finally let her go. By then, Whitney Houston was already under his wing, and like the other female artists in his roster, Clive was allegedly sleeping with Whitney, something that disgusted Phyllis to no end. Phyllis didn't let Clive's mess stop her grind. She went on to sign with Philadelphia International Records and dropped another album in 1986 called Living All Alone. Then in '87, she teamed up with Barry Manilow for a duet, Black and Blue, on his Swing Street album. But she wasn't just killing it in music. Phyllis also made her mark in film, appearing in School Days and The Kill Reflex. She kept blessing other artists with her vocals. And in 1991, she dropped Prime of My Life, the biggest album of her career. That project gave her first ever #1 R&B hit and even landed her on the Billboard Top 100. Life after Clive Davis was looking real good for Phyllis. And best believe, when she finally got the chance to speak on all the BS she went through under Clive, she did not hold back. In a radio interview, she let it all out. And in her own words, she said, "Clive taught me to never be afraid because I was so terrorized by him. Whether he meant to do it or not, I will never know. But he sure taught me that if you try to terrorize me again, well, I can't say that on public radio. What I might do to someone who tries to hurt me like that again in this business, I'm not having it. I should be respected as I respect, and I will not have someone try to ruin my spirit and ruin my career. If Clive Davis, if his plan is to destroy my career, it didn't work." A lot of people believe that the toxic work environment Phyllis endured played a major role in her struggles with mental health. Many even suspect she was battling bipolar disorder. Sadly, just 6 days before her 46th birthday, Phyllis Hyman allegedly took her own life in her New York City apartment by mixing tuna oil and vodka. Her final note, which was found at the scene, read in part, "I am tired, I am tired. Those of you that I love know who you are. May God bless you." Still, a lot of folks weren't buying the story that Phyllis really took her own life. But what do y'all think? When it comes to Phyllis Hyman's final days, especially her career, do you believe Clive Davis played a direct role in her downfall? Or was it something deeper? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on more celebrity stories just like this.